Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RI's Tea-Day Tuesday. For today, another special guest will be joining us. He is a Doctor Fellow of the Royal Institution, Singapore. He has extensive experiences in the financial services and educational arena. He has held senior roles within banking, finance, and education sectors. Currently, he is the Managing Director of AEMC Training Group Australia. Let us all welcome Dr. Fellow Jeffrey Allan Mazzini. Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon to yourselves and to all your members that are listening at the moment. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you today and present about the subject on the virus and the good parts and not so good parts.
Welcome, Jeff. Where are you at today? Where in Australia?
I'm sitting in my home office in Perth, Western Australia. So we're very, very fortunate that we are in an environment that we've had, although been locked down at one stage, but we have a bit of freedom now, so it's great. Great weather, great place, great beaches. Yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment. Yep. Unable to travel. I can't leave the state at the moment, because if I leave the state, I have to serve another 14 days lockup, which I don't like.
Yeah. Okay, so you're just not, you can't leave the state, but within your home and your area, you're not confined to your home.
No, we can move around as long as it's no more than groups of two people maximum. But if you're a family, let's say you had a family and you had 3 children or something, that's all right. You can take them around with you. We're actually allowed to go to the beach, and in Western Australia, we're allowed to swim at the beach as long as we don't sit there and stay at the beach for a long time. So you can go down the beach, have a swim, and then sort of move away again. Yeah, so we've got a bit more freedom than what a lot of the other states have got, and from what I can hear, we've got a lot more freedom than a lot of other countries have got at the moment.
But the situation is under control in your area.
Not necessarily under control, but it is going good. We're flattening the curve, as they say. The only curve that hasn't been flattened is my curve, because I was locked up for 14 days, and I've got a bit of a curve on now. I have to work on that once we've got rid of the virus. So no, it's they have I guess Australia overall, we got about 6,612 cases registered. There's 4,230 recovered at the moment, and we're very fortunate. Well, fortunate or unfortunate, we've had only 71 deaths so far out of those numbers. In Australia, they've tested more than 400,000 people, and now they're getting better equipment where they'll be able to just test you within a matter of moments from the blood they will take out of you. So that will help. And like Singapore, we'll be introducing shortly the new apps that I have on your phone, and you'll be able to walk around. So if you're connected to people in that area for any more than 15 minutes who actually have the virus, the health department will be able to ring you up and tell you that you have to go and isolate yourself for 14 days. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, and after coming back from Brisbane, where was I? Melbourne. I went over to see the staff in the office over there. I had to go over. I knew the consequences of coming back might be a bit tight, but I got back. When I got back, actually, about 2-3 days afterwards, seated in the plane, I started getting symptoms. I was to ring up the doctor and tell them that I'd been identified as a potential risk, and nothing happened. So that was good. I've had my little shave with it. I hope I don't have any more problems like that in the future. Yeah. So we can't travel Australia. They've locked the borders so that unless you've got a really good reason, you can't fly out or you can't fly in. and that's helping control the numbers. In fact, yesterday we had no new reported cases yesterday. So what they're doing is working, but it's all down to the individuals. There are always silly people who think they can break the laws. We've already jailed one person in Western Australia for 30 days because he came in from over east and he was put into a hotel and he went out to see his girlfriend about 4 or 5 times. So he was locked up in jail for 30 days. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, how has the virus affected people, families, government, and the economy?
In a big way. It's sort of sad, and I think there's still a lot of people think this is a short-term problem, but it's not. There's been a lot of people lose their jobs, especially in Australia. We've got, hundreds of thousands of people now starting to be unemployed. They were talking the unemployment rate should reach at least 14.5% by the end of June. And they're big numbers, really big numbers for Australia. So and a lot of employers as well, have now understood and realised that potentially they don't need the large numbers of employees they've had before because they've had forced upon them technology. So the technology that they've had to use, like Zoom. So what Zoom will do now, people won't have to travel overseas as much as they did before. They won't have to travel interstate. So you start to think about the hotels and everything that go with that. There's a lot of problems starting to flow through. So you'll need less people. We're also finding that the government in Australia has coming out, which is good. They've got a plan to give every employee who was a full-time or part-time employee who was employed on the 1st of March, they're going to give them $1,500 a fortnight to their employer. So what that really means is the government, hopefully, I'm praying that we meet the requirements, that they'll give me, for every employee or part-time employee we have on our payroll in Australia, they'll give us $1,500 a fortnight. So $3,000 a month for 6 months if we meet the goals, we continue to meet the thing. And so that's
saving job.
Yeah, that's good money. Now what they're doing, some countries are focusing on just giving the money to the people themselves. But what's happening is, because the more companies that close down, like restaurants, cafes, and all sorts of businesses now just shutting their doors, retail. And so if those businesses don't open up again, then there won't be jobs for anyone. So what they're doing in Australia, they're trying to support the businesses, which at the same time will support the employees. And if you're not getting, let's say you're not making $1,500 a fortnight in Australia because you're part-time or on a salary that's lower, then the employer from that $1,500 will have to make up the difference and add it from the government money, make sure that the employee is getting $1,500 a fortnight minimum during this time. And the reason they're doing that is because they want people to spend money. Okay? Sadly, most countries, their way of getting out of problems is getting their population to spend money. And that's what they want to do in Australia as well. In regards to your question, was that including the governments and that as well?
Yeah. Yeah, about the government and the economy. I think you've covered economy. Yeah, but what's the impact on the government?
Okay. The governments, as we know all around the world, have never been in this situation before for a very long time. Most people weren't alive when the Spanish flu and all those things came through. But we have had the Ebola, and we've had the AIDS epidemic and things like that in the past. But this time it's been, I guess, one of fear, total fear and spread of a disease faster than it's ever spread before. All those other viruses were in pockets around the world. This one is spread to 200 and something countries and very fast. So it makes it quite unusual. Albeit, while people are focusing on the virus, if we have a look at the stats, that sadly there's been 165,000 people die from the virus. But then you have a look at cancer. Cancer this year alone, there's been 2,487,000 people die from cancer already this year. 297,000 people from malaria, from mosquitoes. Smokers, 1.5 million. People drinking too much, 757,000 people. So really, and the flu itself, so far this year has killed 147,000 people. Now, the big problem that Australia faces is that winter is coming. As we know, in Europe, UK, Europe and USA, there is the problem that we've got that it's been winter there, and that's why their numbers have been high, because the cold weather helps the virus thrive and grow a lot faster. So we'll be heading into a winter, and that's why government in Australia is trying to close it down as much as possible, the virus, so that winter doesn't have a great effect. Australia, probably in one way, is fortunate where we get $263 billion a year from exporting minerals, iron ore, oil, all those sort of things. So the government does have some money in the bank, but we all also understand, the death rates in Australia from the virus have been very, very low. And in fact, we've only had, out of the 6,600, we've only had 71 deaths, which is very low. If you can compare it to, say, the Philippines, where it's been 409 deaths from 6,200, and Singapore, 6,500, there's been 11 deaths. So it's one of those things that's very different. Now, we'd also say at this point in time that governments are trying to prop up their economies. They're trying to keep the people employed as much as possible, and they're trying to separate them to make sure they stop spreading the disease. So they've got big challenges ahead of them. I will say that the virus, all it's done is brought forward what was going to happen anyway with unemployment by 2030, they had predicted. I predicted it would be by 2025 that there would be massive unemployment due to technology advancements. A lot of people haven't stopped to think what's going on below the surface with technology. So if we put the virus aside for one moment, the world is faced with a bigger problem, and that's the unskilled labour force across the world. People have resisted strongly from all levels of life about upskilling themselves with technology. We battle constantly. We have low-cost courses that IBM train their staff with, right? Yet people say, I don't want to do that. We just do it out of a book, or we don't do it. So that's even a bigger problem that people have to address behind the scenes. And the governments themselves are faced with many challenges. We see in Australia now, the universities in Australia are really struggling. They're struggling because a lot of foreign students have stopped coming. And a lot of the universities' business models have been based on foreign students bringing in all the money. And if you think about all the accommodation and the restaurants and everything else that all the foreign students were spending their money in as well, so Australia is facing big problems. All around the world, I'm seeing that universities as well are slow to change. They want to keep their buildings. They want people to still keep coming to the university all the time. But now that students around the world have had a taste of the not having to go to a building in heavy traffic each way, and they are now able to stay at home and do their studies, or do some at home, or whatever. So there's a whole cultural shift going on, and the governments are faced now with the millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Ys coming through, and they're different thinking people. And quite often you'll find in education departments, and no disrespect, every country's got a great education system, they've got great people working in these places, but they have to realise now they can't hang on to the old business models, because also employers today are not looking for people with a university's degrees. They're not looking for them. Today's employer wants people with technology skills and soft skills, because the technology skills and soft skills is what people need today. So there's that big shift. People can't go off to university today and do a 3-4 year course, because whatever they're doing is finished when they come out. And there's just, all they end up with a big debt, all right? A big debt. So that's not helping. So there has to be a rejig, a whole new discussion around education. What is best for the student? What is best for the learner has got to be the focus. It's not about what is best for the country, what makes them the most money, or what makes the schools, colleges, and universities the most money. It has to be, what do we do to save a country by getting our students equipped and ready to move forward with it? So they're the big challenges government face. We do work with schools, colleges and universities in different countries. It is a challenge. It is a challenge to get them to understand that if they change now and work with technology, they won't lose their job. But the harder the resistance people are fighting back against it, the potential is technology will take over. And if you have a look what's happening with robots, robotic automation, robots now are being trained to think and act like humans. Okay? That's the scary thing. They've been trained to think and act like humans. Yet humans are still in the robotic education system they were brought up with over the years. So when they go to school, before they go to school, mum and dad, don't do this, don't do that, no, told what to do. Get to the schools, the teacher stands up the front and tells them what to do. And children in schooling today get rewarded for good behaviours, where they're not getting rewarded for innovation and thinking. And in Australia, we have a terminology for parents, the ones we call them snowplow parents. I don't know whether you've heard of the word snowplow parents. What a snowplow parent does, they push ahead of their child, clearing the pathway to make sure that that child has no issues going forward, okay? So what happens when that child gets to the age of having to make decisions for themselves and you know, survive, basically survival skills, they've lost them. They don't have them. They lack the confidence to keep moving forward. And so that's another big issue that has to be addressed. Parents have to understand the world's changed, and they shouldn't keep pushing their children into universities all the time, because it may not be the best thing for them. In Australia, we have people being pushed into universities by their parents, only to find that's not really what they wanted to do, and they go for a year or so and then they just walk away anyway. So there's a lot of challenges ahead for the individuals. And speaking of individuals, if it's still on the same subject matter, a lot of people are sitting back watching and saying, well, my company's wrong because they haven't upskilled me. My company's wrong because they haven't spent the time to make my job easier and train me. But when the fact is, if we all stood in front of a mirror and looked at that mirror and said to the mirror, who is the person responsible for my future? Who's the person responsible to put food on my table? And the person in the mirror is that person, the person they're looking at, because it's no one else's responsibility to give everyone a free hand up in life. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure they educate themselves. for survival now, because when the virus is over, this is how it's going to unfold. When it does stop, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people around the world will descend upon employers wanting their old job back. And the employers are going to go, we don't need those numbers anymore. And by the way, we need differently skilled people to take those job roles on. And if you haven't got those skills, then that's going to be a problem. And this is why I see the benefits of the Royal Institute with your international certificate. I see a great opportunity for people to get recognised for who they are and what they've done in various countries, and have the ability to move across borders. We trademarked the education without borders a few years ago, because a few years ago I could see these things all unfolding everywhere, where everyone was trying to lock in the education of every country. So everyone wants to own the education, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem with it is, by locking in those education, they're not opening it up to other ideas and other ways. So what people will need to be able to go for a job, they're going to need the ability to be able to present a quality qualification that's recognised across borders. At the moment, what's happening is people say from India will come to Australia, we'll pick on India, they come to Australia for work, for education, and work. They'll bring their Indian qualification with them, and Australia won't accept it. No, they have to go off to university and do something, or they have to go off somewhere else and do in other parts, right? So that happens in a lot of places. So a lot of people can't get work, even though they've got the qualification, they can do the job. So that's another issue that has to happen. But the countries themselves, until they're ready to give up the financial reward or controls of education, then that's going to take a long time to settle down. In the meantime, those who don't will suffer. The economies will suffer. And that's what people have to be careful of as well. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's after virus, what I'm predicting will happen. And unfortunately, most people using this time, the lockdown time, most people are having a good time. They're watching Netflix and they're doing all those things that they're relaxing. Yeah, let's say they're relaxing. But they're letting the brain sleep, okay? They should never let the brain sleep. And that's what they're doing. They should be making that brain work for them to undertake some more soft skills and IT courses, whatever, and make them strong. So when they go out to the big world, when those hundreds of thousands of people are lined up for jobs, they have confidence, because confidence will give them a job as well. People can see that. When I was in Melbourne a month or so ago, I witnessed something I would never ever thought I'd see in my life. And that was queues and lines of people stretched up all the way down the streets, around the blocks, all the way around, big long queues everywhere. And they're all going to one place, unemployment place. Okay? So if that's happening already in Australia, that's what every country's got to look forward to, unless there's radical changes made. And through the Royal Institute, together with yourselves and your members, we can all work together to make that happen.